was actually expecting a few more people, but I'm glad we have you. Maybe they just want to stay at home and keep warm this morning. I'm Eliza. I'm new to North Bank, and my background is in building community, co-working, and building events. I've come up from Florida, and that being said, I'm absolutely still terrified of public speaking. So here I am, no growth in the comfort zone, right? So here we go. What is North Bank Innovations? North Bank is for connecting. It's an incubator for startups and early stage teams. We are here for more events to bring the community together. And we're very open to ideas for that also and suggestions. We want to help provide what you need. We are an incubator, as I said, and we have programming. And we also have mentorship and an advisory board and resources that startups need in the community. We have various events, and the best way to find out about those is to subscribe to Luma, so you can see what we've got coming up. There's just one more event this month, the Van Techie Happy Hour. And if you subscribe to Luma, you can find out much more about all our events. Just a huge thank you. This wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. And we certainly would love to have more. So if anyone is in the room that would care to stand up and let us know that, we would welcome it. We couldn't do what we do without our sponsors. So thank you to those. Just a couple of housekeeping before Dave comes up. Please make sure your phones are on silent. That's great, so we don't interrupt our special guest here today. And I will be coming around with the Q&A at the end. I will have a little microphone for you. So wait till I get to you, if that's okay with the microphone. I'll rush around when we do the questions. So Dave, come on up. I'm sure everyone knows Dave.
Yeah. Perfect. So, well, I'm double mic now. Okay, so we're changing up the format a little bit. Hopefully it's going to be disruptive, and it's moving towards going to be a live podcast. Just so you guys know, we've had a lot of interest in people that want to see this that aren't directly here. I don't love virtual events, but we happen to know somebody that's really good at them. So I may need some coaching. So literally, what you know about me, you just heard a little bit about North Bank. North Bank is here for you guys, but so I want to find out a lot about what you guys do. There's people that I know, there's people that I don't, and I would love to find out who is working on a project, who's got a startup and what they're working on. So this is a chance for you to tell us, who's in the room. So I know some people, I can either poke at them or you can raise your hand. I'd love it. Yeah, I'm going to walk over to you so we can hear you.
Okay, hi, my name is Mercedes, and I am, can you hear me? Okay. And I am a startup. I've been for over, it's 9 years now, working with an amazing team in innovation and in the footwear industry. So I am the creator of Hilo Footwear. What our technology does, there's a hybrid footwear. It's a high heel that I didn't have the sample with me, but it's high heels that converted to flat. It's all high engineered. We use multiple layers to make it happen, and we finally here ready to scale.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I told you, I tap on shoulders.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tam Tran, and I'm part of a venture capitalist firm called 360 Collective. 360 Collective is basically a portfolio that specializes in providing seed money to startup companies that are specifically owned and operated by women and people of color. So today is actually my first day with the venture capitalist firm. And the project that I'm working on, and and potentially being active CEO for is a company called Hire Runner, and Hire Runner specializes in finding project-based jobs in the technology space. So let me break it down for you real quick. So it's kind of like temp agency meets AI. So I'm going to use Ryan here as an example. So Ryan is a senior engineer, has X amount of years of experience coding, has managed a team, and worked for a payroll company. So based on that data, Hire Runner will find and match Ryan with other companies that need his expertise. Now, a lot of these tech companies can't afford Ryan for 40 hours a week, but if he's looking for a side gig for 10 hours a week, this is my customer and client. So we're in early stages. We're looking to fundraise hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and I hope I get to partner with each and every one of you guys.
Anybody else working on a startup or a side project other than a resort? Sorry. It's farming. Farming. Yeah, Dave.
So my name is David Ike. I'm a software engineer, and I'm working on a AI vibe coding seed. So if you don't know what you're doing, you go to Replit, you go to Lovable, and you try and build a website with it. You're going to get varied results. My job is to give you the guardrails and the path to production that give you good results every time. So I'm looking for testers if anybody's interested in trying that out.
That's awesome. Thanks. Look at anybody else. Cool. Guys, I really appreciate it. It's always really exciting just to see the energy that's up here and the things that we have going on. Part of the story of Vancouver is we hide in our caves, and COVID didn't make it any better. So nobody knows the scene that's up here. And we've proven over the last year and a half that there are amazing companies that are up here, founders that are starting early stage projects that really need this kind of incubation and culture. So our goal for North Bank is really to bring people together and really help them by connection to resources, connections to community. And the other thing we're focusing on this quarter is founder skills. You'll see I've done this before. I've talked about, I'll always have a book recommendation. Well, I want to dig a little bit deeper just for 2 seconds about this. Decision making is absolutely huge, and most of us aren't trained how to do it. And so here's the quick primer. Stop making bad decisions. If you want to make better decisions, learn how to stop making bad decisions. So the book Clear Thinking really is one of those things that does this. I'm not going to dig a lot into this, but one of the high-level concepts that it does is it starts talking about when your ego gets in the way, when you're the idea of pot committed, that you're just kind of like this momentum of your decisions is making is leading you down the way path to make another bad decision. That it's just the default. It's because that's just what you do, right? And as innovators, we have to learn to be disruptive and anything else. So it's a big shout out to this book, and I think it has a really, really interesting architecture. You can totally geek out on it and do matrices and all this other kind of stuff, but it's a great read. The other thing that we're doing is doing more of that. We've been talking about an incubator. An incubator is a really interesting term. Everybody else has their own definition, but an incubator is where you're going to come in, work with other founders, and you're going to get some guidance. And we're launching a program. We do not have the original start. We're not doing a cohort group. This will be a rolling. So what we want to do is we want to find out who's interested, and we want to talk to them and then start working with them. We're working with 2 companies right now. We have a co-working space here. It is growing. We just have some really exciting news. I'm not going to speak to it yet, but starting February 1st, we'll have some really, really exciting announcements about the space that we're in and the things that we're going to be able to do. But if you have an early stage startup, you want to get some of that guidance, you want to find out kind of how to lean into some of these things that'll make you better and be catalytic to your business, I would encourage you to just reach that. That's not an application other than coming to us. We'll reach back out to you and talk more. Talk more about what you want to do and where you want to go. I would say on the spectrum of idea stage, pre-seed, seed stage, and growth stage, it's just very likely if you're on the edge, if you've got an MVP, right, you're starting to bump into some of the challenges inside of the marketplace, that's where some of the advisory that we have and what we can do can really help. So if it's as an idea, great. The events are amazing to come in and find out, test out, find out what other people think and connect. But if it's something you're going to commit to, then I think that's where we can help. So that's it. There's a QR code, shows that as well. That was a quick commercial. But you didn't come to hear me. Yeah, you didn't come to hear me. William Simpson, literally just met him at an event, and in 5 seconds he tells me that he's raised a massive company, sold the massive company, left it, came back and built it. I'm going to ruin his story. And he's signed up for his MBA. So we've just connected really quickly, but he's phenomenal. And truthfully, from everything that I've known about the industry, inside of the cannabis industry, he's positioned amazingly. So was really excited to have him, come and agree to do this. So I'm going to turn this over to him. I'll give you that.
Okay, so what do I do with this?
I'll give you that.
This is the clicker.
Yeah, not right now. Let me switch over here. Okay.
It's not there though. Technical difficulties.
It's gonna happen every time.
Well, first, I'll tell you, if you guys see me wince walking, I just sprained my ankle really bad. And I would love to say it was doing something radical like jumping out of an airplane or snowboarding, which I both like to do, but it was dancing with my wife. I know. I swear, these stories as you get older, how'd you throw out your back? I sneezed. They come humbling, so I don't know. It is what it is. So you click this button, and then, okay, great. Great. Can I, by a show of hands, who's in the idea phase of your business right now? Perfect. Who's operating in revenue? And who is in profitability? Okay. Any investors in the room? Couple. Okay. Well, I'm really excited to come today. It's been a while since I've been asked to come and talk about what nobody tells you. This was like a great thought process, sit down and go, what would I have been appreciated being sat down and told early on in my career? I'm going to get into that here in a moment. A little bit of background, serial entrepreneur, Golden Grail, Chalice Farms, 13th startup company. I've raised a couple $100 million in my career. I also run a real estate fund, and I help strategy of small businesses. I'm invested in a lot of different sectors from AI to drone technology. This, though, was my passion project. While I was working in normal careers, I was a fighter and a football player when I was young. And in my early 20s, I was taking bottles of Vicodin and Flexerol. And I didn't know any different. This is just the way to keep playing. And one of my good friends is like, "You're going to end up dead. You should try these cookies." And I was like, "I'm not a stoner." And he goes, "It's not about that." Those cookies weaned me off of pharma drugs in less than a month. And so, being the big nerd I am, I went back and did a botany internship for 4 years and started learning how to cultivate the plant. And then being a competitor, I learned you could enter award shows and competitive series with these things, and I started winning them. And other people were like, "Hey, can you teach me how to do that?" I was like, "Wow, that's interesting. This thing that I love to do after I work 12-hour days and come home and now I'm growing these little plants and studying, this could be the job potential." And that turned into a career of built out a construction company that built hundreds of facilities for people all over the United States. And then got involved in the politics, which I think is really important. Any business you're in, you want to be a part of that voice. So I started the first association in Washington, hired Phil Waite, the executive director of the liquor control, to help with that lobbying effort. I didn't know what I was doing. It was definitely cutting my teeth in politics. I learned I don't like politics. And then when Kitzhaber signed 3460 in Oregon, they asked me to come in with Amy Margolis, and we started the Oregon Cannabis Association. So we had, kind of understood the geography of all the legal landscape. And then we were like, why are we training all of our competition? Let's create the company that I've always envisioned. And I wanted that to be something that changed the stigma. I didn't want it to be about, Cheech and Chong and Bong. I wanted it to be a beautiful, warm environment where people came in, let their guard down, so that you could really educate them. You could do well by them. If they're uncomfortable in a store scenario, they're not going to be there long enough to learn what really helps, because it's a lot more than just getting stoned. Well, we ended up having a lot of success with that, doing a lot of kind of speaking events around the country, ran into some big bankers. They wanted to help take us public. We did that. We took it public on the Canadian Stock Exchange, had a large exit, and then, lo and behold, they said, well, we need you to run the company now. I thought there was a great CEO in the seat, but they didn't agree. They wanted the entrepreneurial founder passion involved. And so I did that successfully, I would say. We raised a lot of money. We built the business. We kept growing. And then my mom got really sick and passed away. And that just cut me off at the knees. And so I had enough money in life. And so my wife and I moved back to Hawaii, where I was raised, and I retired. And not growing up with money, I always believed, when you work hard, you make money, and then you take your time. Well, that isn't true, at least for me. And I think a lot of probably people in this room, you need purpose. I needed purpose. And so I just recently, a little over 2 years ago, 3 CEOs after me, and they were like high-profile brand CEOs, failed the business. They bankrupted it. And I don't know, whatever, gift from God, I was able to buy the company back, and for a 95% discount, so that didn't hurt. And then started it over. It was losing $300,000 a month. By the end of the year, we were break even, and this last year, we were very profitable. I've doubled it here in this last 2 years, and we're now expanding into 4 other states. We're full vertical, so every segment of the market. We manufacture, toll process, wholesale, retail, brand, you name it. So that's the history of that. My passion project turned into a large company, and that was the timeline. My goal now is we're turning into a 100% employee-owned company. I love that idea of team. I love, ESOPs are 300% more productive in every sector, 250% less attrition rates. Everybody feels like an owner, and I want everybody to have that. I thought they did the last time because everybody had stock options, but then I didn't realize the market, of course, that whole sector would crash. I mean, nobody really did. But this time around, we do want to go public in the U.S., which with Schedule 3, that's very possible. So that's the journey we're on. But again, not here to really talk about that. I just wanted to give you that little bit of background and kind of when I was thinking about what they don't tell you. And I wished somebody had sat me down 20 years ago and said, I want you to do these things. I want you to write them down, and I want you to create goals within them. And they're basic. A lot of them are basic, but start early, work harder than anyone around you. Easier said than done. But the big thing about this is, how do you do that? And how do you renew and continue to be able to do this? One, you have to get buy-in from your family. Your family and friends have to understand. I like to say that every day is Monday. Like, as an entrepreneur and you're starting up a business, you need to know that there isn't a day off. You're waking up early, you're going to bed late, and you're grinding every single day. I think a lot of people don't talk about in business entrepreneurship is physical fitness. So you wake up early and you move every day. And it doesn't have to be crazy. People are like, oh, I'm not a big weightlifter. It doesn't matter. You can go on a fast walk. You can do some Pilates, yoga, lift weights, whatever it is, get up and move your body. Another really important thing is the circadian rhythm. Have a daylight bulb that wakes you up. It spikes your cortisol right in the first part of the day, and it sets the tone for the body. Don't eat processed foods. Eat whole, organic foods. Drink a lot of water. Like, I know these, a lot of people say, oh, this is stuff that I don't do. Fast food, don't do it. When you're an entrepreneur and you're working the level you're working with all the stress you have on you, if you're not treating your body like a fine-tuned machine, you're going to be harming yourself. You're not going to be able to keep up with the pace that you're going to need to find the success that you're going to want. So there are no weekends. I think this is a big key. If you want to go a little crazier with cheat codes, ice bath is amazing. I'm not joking. Every morning I jump in there. I never want to, but I'll tell you what, 3 minutes, you feel like Superman. So take every meeting. You never know when it's the one. My wife used to give me the hardest time about this. She's like, you have all these meetings and it seems like nothing comes of it. And I was like, it only takes the one. It's like your network, I call it your net worth. It isn't what you know in life, it's who you know a lot of the time, right? And so go to every association meeting, get involved in your industry meetings, go speak, go to these types of networking events, meet everybody possible, because I'll tell you, it is who you know that does matter. And the larger that network gets, the better you're going to find success, the more opportunities that you're going to run into. And like I said, show up everywhere. We used to, on that show, to get Chalice to the level it was, I went to every banking convention, every investor meeting, every VC event, everything I could find and sign up for. It's a lot of time. It kind of goes back to, how do you find the time for all this? Well, you get up at 4 a.m. and you go to bed at 10 p.m. and that's just what you do. And you keep yourself healthy so you can keep that up and hopefully you don't get sick. But it takes a lot of time to get that. Now, do you have to do this forever? Most likely not, right? But especially in that startup phase, when you're building your foundation, you're building your business, you're building that network, you need to be pushing it. And you need to take all those meetings and opportunities to expand. This is a big one. I think because I have an expectation upon myself, and I think most entrepreneurs do themselves, you expect other people to have that same level of passion and drive. They're not going to. And it's just like, it's a reality. You have to understand. Don't put that expectation on them. Especially like nepotism. I think I spoke about it in here somewhere. When you hire friends and family, and I'm one of those people, like, if I have an opportunity, who do I want to help out? Friends and family, I want to give them an opportunity too. It's really great. That can be a really, really hard thing to do. And because they're friends and family, I think you have this unrealistic expectation that they're going to be more loyal and harder working because that's who they are. And again, that's setting yourself up for failure, I think, in most cases. And it's one of these easy ones to do, and I think I see a lot of entrepreneurs fall prey to this one. If you do work with friends or family, make sure you have expectations that are written in stone, that are very understood, that are signed by both parties and spoken of, because, I mean, I can give you story after story. One of them, I had 2 cousins that worked for the business, and they were actually problematic employees, and I didn't let them answer to me because I thought that would be a problem in itself, so I had another person manage these people. Well, after the company sold, they walked into my office and said, well, how much money do we get? How much money do you get? I mean, you're an employee. You get stock options like everybody else. It ruined the relationship because they thought they should have had millions of dollars because the company sold, just because they were there. I mean, these are, and again, good people. They had no life experience before this. This was their first job ever. And they were just, basic entry employees. But they should be millionaires because they were around when it happened. And it happens a lot like that. And unless and I didn't know enough to, I think, set that expectation and to be very, very specific of what you do and don't get and how you do and don't get it. And it's one of these things that you just have to be careful with because it'll create a lot of extra stress, undue stress in your life that's already a stressful environment when you're building a business. And it is the loneliest part of leadership. Succession planning, cross-training, redundancy. So that you're one resignation away from chaos, especially in startup mode when you're a small team. You need everybody cross-trained. You need triple redundancy. This is where, succession planning, you should build the business like you're going to leave even if you're going to stay forever. Because that's the only way that you won't have, you'll alleviate a lot of headaches this way. I like to go through our business and put an org chart together. It's a lot easier when you're a little company. We're a larger company now, so we're 300 people. But we look at every single position and go, if that person gets sick or leaves, what happens? Is that a critical function that we don't have a skill set within that person right around them? That's a problem. We should deal with that right now. We should train up the people around them. We do this through standardized SOP or like objective key result meetings, and I'm sure all of you have heard enough of that type of stuff. But you need to cross-train your people, everyone, and especially when you're a team of 2, 5, 10, 20, it's even more critical because one of those people is gone. what happens in your life? I mean, really do this exercise. Draw up your entire organization and imagine that person's not coming back. What do you do tomorrow? What does it do to your projections? What does it do to your business? This is something that I learned the hard way, unfortunately, too many times in the first decade of business that I started, and for some reason I was stubborn and didn't learn it. The last 10 years of my life, I've learned it, and it's been a monumental change. Join forum-style groups. So 2 people that I've looked up to in my life more than anybody, I would say just as great human beings, but most successful people I know. Both of them over a decade ago told me you need to join YPO. And I just said, gosh, going back to how much time do you have in life? I'm like already 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, barely I need to get my workout in. How do I put one more thing in my life? When you sign up for one of these things, you're committing to a 4-hour forum once a month, other meetings, chapter meetings. But they said it was their super secret to success. And I was like, how's that even possible? It's just a network. It's not just a network thing. So these all have different levels to get into, like whether it's Vistage or EO or YPO. Like YPO, you have to be 15 million in revenue. EO is 1 million. Vistage is 5 million, I believe. But North Bank is also looking at potentially doing something for true startup before you're even in revenue, because these groups are so important. Like all the things that we were just talking about and all the issues that you go through every day, you don't want to go home and the little amount of time you have with friends or family, dump that on them. And you don't complain sideways or down, you only complain up. Well, the only people that understand all the things that you're going through on a daily basis and the stresses of life and running a company and all that are your peers that are doing the same thing you're doing. Doesn't need to be in the same sector. It's all the same stuff. Raising money, capital, investors, employee problems, OSHA violations, whatever you want to go through. All of these people understand that. And to have that support team around you, to learn from each other, it expedites that process of fail fast kind of mentality. You're going to hear something that is going to resonate with you that you didn't even realize you had to look out for or learn from. And I will say, I am only into my second year now, YPO, and it has been transformational. I feel like it was the one big thing I was missing in my professional life. And I would encourage everybody to get involved early. It is not, again, it's not a networking deal where you're just trying to trade contacts. This is a support mechanism, how to run a company, how to support a family while you're running a company, how do you manage your time correctly. I mean, it really is an amazing process for everybody. Honest feedback too, they're gonna hold you accountable. They're gonna tell you, when you come to your forum meeting and 5 in a row, you've talked about the same issue with this person that you probably should have let go in the business or whatever it may be, they're gonna say, we wanna stop hearing you say that, like act on it. What are you doing? Like they're a great accountability source to hold you to your goals. So it's been a big one in my life. And I think one of the most important things that people don't talk about is the journey you're in right now. It's the best part, at least for me. I mean, I remember standing there, more money than I've ever seen in my life, and I was like, well, now what? And a good friend of mine, mentor, the founder of Quicksilver, he said, I remember it was in a moment of extreme stress, up and down deal. When you're exiting, you guys, the ones that have been or heard it, been around it, those deals a lot of time will die, they'll come back, they'll die, they'll come back, they'll die. I think ours died probably 7 times. And it was so stressful emotionally. Now you're $1 million in attorney bills down the road and you don't have a deal maybe, right? And then he goes, William, enjoy, right now is the best part of the journey. He goes, enjoy this right now because it doesn't get better. And coming back in and getting to do this over again, I realize that even more so. That how lucky are we that we get to do this? You have enough courage to say, I'm gonna go out and create something from nothing. I'm gonna put my name on all the personal guarantees. I'm gonna put my finances at risk and create opportunity for other people. You get to do that. That takes a lot of courage to just jump, And so just appreciate that. It's, I don't know, you can call it a gratitude practice, whatever you want to call it, but just don't lose sight of that in all those stressful moments of creating and building businesses. It's easy to do. You know, there's a lot of stress that piles up. There's a lot of things that happen, juggling the family, your health, the work ethic. Are my goals correct? Do I have the right strategy? I mean, there's a lot going on there. So really just taking the time to be grateful is important. And of course, staying healthy along the way. I think I...
Nice, thank you. William.
Well,
what a ride, man. Seriously, what a ride. That's awesome. I got some questions about kind of 0 to 1, early days, right? First get the idea for this, right? You mentioned that you're working with painkillers and that's not working and causing all sorts of problems and everything else. What was the genesis of the first way I'm going to do, was it a dispensary? Was it the first opening, or was it something else that you kicked off with?
no, yeah, we started a small indoor grow.
Okay.
And we're basically working straight with medical patients just to understand what that looked like. And it was, you know, it still seemed like an illegal business at the time. You know, this was, you know, when I told my parents, like they're pretty conservative Christians, they're like, "What are you doing?" It was 2002, so it was very much gray area.
Was it legal in Oregon yet?
It was legal medically.
Okay.
You had to have a
Medically.
medical card, but it still
Yeah.
felt like you're doing something wrong. Like it was
Yeah.
very much, you didn't tell a lot of people. Like I said, it was more of the after-hour passion project than a job. I didn't feel like it was a job at all. It was,
Yeah, we did a startup weekend, 2018, and the guy comes up and he pitches this idea. He says, "Look, you know what? You got all these dating apps with all these affinities." I says, "I could never get a date on any of the dating apps until I posted a picture of me with a grow in the back," and I was like, ladies were like all over. And so he comes up, he gives this pitch about this dating app for cannabis users.
interesting.
And later, as he's pitching, we've gone through the whole weekend, and as he's pitching, I'm like, "Oh, you're out of California. You're a drug dealer." Wait a minute, because yes,
Yeah.
and it is. The situation's totally changed. So, were there backers, or is this something you just started with friends? And
No,
'cause you can't get loans.
no, yeah, I was doing commercial loans, some small investment opportunity stuff, and I was using every dollar I made to invest into my own project. I mean, my wife and I just, when I talked about doing this, we were reminiscing, and it was probably 8 to 10 years where we didn't know if we're paying the mortgage the next month. You know, because of course I'm spending any dollar I made back on the next plan, next idea, full commitment, and we figured it out. But it, you know, I think it stressed her out more because, you know, I was in the driver's seat, I was out making it happen, and you know, she just realized that, hey, I still don't have money in the checking account to pay that, pay the mortgage. So, no, I didn't have any backers early on.
Okay.
And then we started once the dispensary program came around, we started basically our first small kind of beta dispensary. It was non-branded.
Oh.
And it was really just to test the market, understand the consumer, look at the product flow. And that was all of our own money too. Once I proved the model at that point, I was able to go get a backer.
What about early marketing at that day? How are you reaching new customers and finding out about it?
Word of mouth.
It's all word of mouth.
Yeah, you couldn't advertise it.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's huge restrictions around it. So, no, that's crazy. Yeah, and you mentioned I'm gonna go back to one of the slides that was talking about the support groups, right? And you mentioned that it was only later that you got into YPO and anything like that. And you mentioned, you know, no negative goes down or sideways. It's all up. Common. You think that it's your wife, your spouse, you know, that people around you that understand that, and it's not.
No,
it's not. I think you mentioned, does that cause some dissension, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Well,
hard lesson learned. It seems like
it is, and a lot of, I mean, I think, you know, my wife and I've been together now 23 years. I mean, I think it took, you know, the first 15 of me just coming home and, like, you know, verbal diarrhea of all my problems, you know. And you don't realize you're like, oh, in an entrepreneurial mindset, and, you know, maybe just me being me, she had her day too. And it's easy to just talk about all the issues of juggling everything in life, and that's the last thing you want to do ever. You want to show up and be attentive and ask them and happy with your kids and your spouse and your friends, and it takes a lot, I guess, a lot of learned lessons.
Yeah.
And luckily, we're good at communicating, so she wasn't afraid to tell me where I was screwing up there.
Love it.
But you need that outlet. It's important to have that outlet, and that's where these groups are amazing for entrepreneurs.
And I think the other side of that too is, everybody kind of knows you don't take it out on somebody else. You don't come home and kick the dog, right? That's not who you want to be. But the other side is, you talk about the ups and downs of that exit. It's like you're coming in fired up, like everything is potential in your brain, right? You're wired to look for opportunity and potential, and so everything is like, oh my God, and then it fails or it doesn't happen, and you move on, and you've laid this expectation in your world.
Yeah,
that's a tough one too.
The family felt the up and down very much so.
Yeah.
And they're not used to that emotional up and down, and I'm a lot of energy anyway too, so when I come home and talk about all the things that are happening in a positive manner, then the next day it's like the world's crashing and everything's over. So it's a lot to share, with them. But that is, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs, you have to be that eternal optimist and have that energy.
Right.
And you're just always, you get over the loss real quick and you're back to, okay, how do we make this happen?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean your friends and your spouse and your kids understand that.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot about taking care of yourself and ice baths. Sorry, dude. Don't think it's going to happen. Maybe, I don't know.
You'd love it.
We'll do an ice bath session. Any entrepreneurs that want to come out and do the ice bath, bring in the ice bath, because Ryan Moore does the same thing, and he talked about it. But you've always had a physical background.
Yep.
MMA was a huge part of what you did before you got into
very much
doing Chalice.
Yes.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, growing up in Hawaii, I was the only Haole kid in all Hawaiian schools. And of course, my dad was an entrepreneur. He moved us every 6 months somewhere. So, you're the new kid at the school, and you kind of start finding your way, and then now you're the new kid again. And it was a rough way to grow up, gotta be honest. So they ended up putting me in jiu-jitsu. Well, it was started at judo at 4. And then by the time I was 12, I was competing, doing Kaji Kembo. By the time I was 18, I helped, Matt Lindland and Randy Couture opened Team Quest in Gresham for underneath the UFC, and was doing a lot of just bare knuckle cash stuff. And it's not good on your body. It was really fun when I was young. But physical fitness was always something close to me. It's my stress relief too. But there's whether you've been in a physical person or not, there's a lot of science. It's hard to argue that the oxygenation into your brain, you function better, you sleep better, you think better. It just is a cheat code. And I've coached a lot of people that were in that brand new startup world that had never really been physical, and the night and day difference. The way they feel, the energy. Because people are like, I don't have time, I'll be tired, I'm already tired. You will have more energy if you're physical. If you start working out every morning, it'll take you 3-4 weeks sometimes, depending on the person, depending on a lot of other things, body individuality, but you will have more energy. And it's a cheat code. It's something that I don't see a lot of people in business talk about. It should be, this is something you have to do.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to put this all together. Bare knuckle, ice bath. You said stress. That was stress relief.
Well, the ice bath is. Working out is.
I don't think those words are put out of my sentence in one sentence in a while. So it's awesome. It's awesome. Part of this is also we mentioned legislatively this is moving that cannabis is moving into Schedule 3, right? Which is a huge opportunity. So this is like what's ahead of you is nowhere near what you just had, but huge opportunity moving in front of you.
It could be the largest opportunity yet. People, I don't know if any of you follow the cannabis sector. when it went public and federally legal in Canada, that entire market's smaller in California. People were trading at 40 times revenue and losing 30%. I mean, it was insane. Made no sense at all. But volume was there. The money changed hands for a solid couple of years. Now, when the opportunity comes with everyone with an E-Trade account that sees legal cannabis as a blue chip offering on the NASDAQ, there's going to be some level of that, and I think companies that are able to offer great fundamentals and actual profitability and a road for growth, and I think there's going to be some real arbitrage to be had.
Yeah.
But I'm going into it with a very different mindset. It's not an exit mindset this time. The first time it absolutely was an exit mindset. That's what I was built for in my entrepreneurial mind. But now I'm like, I don't know if any of you haven't read the book Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Phenomenal book, but that's more of the mindset I'm in now. It's a legacy. I don't ever want to be gone from the business. I want to provide more opportunity for the people involved and, some monetary benefits for people. Yeah. But I just want to create a lasting business that I love to work in. I was just talking to some people in the room, and I don't feel like I'm working anymore. I love what I do every day. Like it is not a job, and I work a crazy amount. Not because I even have to anymore. I just love it. I love it as much as surfing or fishing or hanging out with my family. And it's a hard balance because I tend to work more than anything else. I need to try to push off the other side. But
yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I want to open it up to you guys. Let me trade that top mic. Give that over to Eliza. And then if you guys have a question, Eliza, take it. If you guys have a question, raise your hand, and we'd love to get you the mic. And open up for.
+1 for the cold plunge.
No, you too? Oh no.
Yeah, I cold plunge in sauna every day. But I'm curious about, as you look back on your career, what is one of the toughest moments you faced, and what did it teach you about your leadership style?
Wow, that's a great question. I have to believe it was the seventh time the deal died, and I had a massive amount of personal invoices for attorneys that I really couldn't afford. And I went from like, wow, what did I get myself into here? Like, what choices brought me to this moment? Where we were finally at a place in life that we weren't struggling financially anymore as an entrepreneur, and I might have just sunk us. Now I'm going to start all the way back over again. And it took me probably 72 hours, I'm just guessing about, to where I just said, you know what, stop the pity party, get back out there, and you're going to just make it happen. You're going to, like, it's not over. You keep fighting in it. I think it was not as much as of a leadership style. It was more of like realizing the resilience I had. Yeah. That you just, no matter the situation, like, again, I'm on this side of the ground. I mean, I could be terminally ill with cancer. Like, the fact that this is the battle I get to wake up and do is to go fight building some awesome thing. And if I lose, I lose. But at least I tried. It was cool to see that I could overcome that. And kind of let it just water off a duck's back. After a certain moment, I did have some downtime there for a moment. And I think from a leadership style analysis of myself, to be able to be that for the rest of the team, the like coaching and affiliate of not letting it get them down. I know as a leader in the business, your energy's contagious. You're the cheerleader, you're the person driving that whole mission and energy. And if your team sees that of you, they're gonna feel that way. So coming in and being able to grab everybody and say, hey, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna figure this out. This is what we do. And I got them to believe it because I believed it myself. It took a minute to get the mind right. But then when I came back in, and they all kind of have this look like, oh God, what's happening? Are we like losing our jobs? Like, what, I'm like, no. I mean, not if I can do anything about it. So let's get the pens out. Let's get the whiteboard. And it worked.
Thank you.
I'm gonna tag on to that for just 1 second, because you mentioned 72 hours. Did you have to give yourself permission to just say, give me a minute? Like, check out, don't try and do what you're doing. Because I think we always think this fake it till you make it. It's like you always have to be on. You got employees at the time, but even for yourself, right? I find I got to say, I'm not taking any calls. I'm not answering email. I got to get my mind right. Just give me a bit. I'll be fine. We'll come back at it. But
I didn't make that conscious decision.
yeah,
I just was down a hole.
Yeah.
I just kind of checked out. It was a big
Okay.
blow.
Yeah.
And it felt like the world collapsed and everything was over.
like I mentioned.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really think about giving myself. It just happened.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, William, first of all, can you hear me on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your presentation and congratulations on your success. You used a word just a couple minutes ago that I was thinking of as you went through your talk, and it was resilience. And I'm interested in hearing your perspective on resilience because, I mean, we've probably all seen entrepreneurs who go through an experience that I equate a little bit to like Navy SEAL training. It's just like almost, you know, a recipe for emotional death. It's just so hard. And I remember stories of entrepreneurs like this one founder telling me that he just literally went outside and vomited because the stress was so high. And I'm interested from your standpoint, like how do founders build that resilience to go through what you're going through with that kind of self, you know, just the taxing level of commitment that's required to do what you've done?
Yeah.
Sounds like MMA at 4 was the way you started.
I mean, just thinking about that question, I'm feeling like emotional. Like I'm like, ooh, the upset. There are so many stories that you go through. I think it's learned a little bit over every time span. It's, you know, year 1, year 2, year 3, you get better and better and better. Or, I mean, some people don't. Like some people don't have it and they fail. I mean, that's a real thing too. I think a lot of those people may have been able to make it if they had put some of the practices I've talked about into place. I mean, I think physical fitness is something that will help you deal with that stress a lot. Like some of my worst days, you know, you go to the gym and you work out to the point where you're like, I call it the sweat snowman. You get off the ground and you see your whole body of sweat. It's pretty hard to be stressed out at that point. You're just exhausted, right? There's no more left there. And then the hormonal balance that you get from your body coming back from that helps you cope with that stress. I wasn't always good at it though. I mean, there was definitely time periods where it ate at me more. Like I'm really, you know, I would say a very optimistic, very happy person. And there were some times where like my wife's like, you're kind of like bumming me out, you know, like I noticed my mood was down and I allowed it to be there. You can get into a mode where you don't realize it. You know, you're in that programming where you wake up, you're doing your day, you're trying to hit the goals and you're losing sight of like, hey, I need to do something to renew myself and my energy. I think renewal is a really important part. When we talk about working 16-hour days and doing all of this stuff, you do have to find things that bring you joy. You know, people say, you know, building a business is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I think it's a marathon full of sprints, right? And the way I looked at it is I would sprint as hard and as long as I could to where I got to a point where I felt like there was a little less resistance. And I would say, okay, I'm just gonna go check out for a couple days and go walk in a stream and fish or go to the beach and look at the ocean. Something, turn your phone off, don't look at your email. Just for a little bit, you know, you do have to give yourself those moments where you're not hyper-vigilant, connected to everything. I mean, even if your phone's near you, you feel like, oh, I gotta look at it. There might be an email I need to answer. You know, it's just, you put that away and you take yourself out of that energy. I've tried to meditate. I know a lot of people like that. It never seemed to work for me, you know, but that's where I think there's a lot of benefit in that for some people too. I think everybody kind of has to find their own thing. I know I get a lot from yoga. I don't do it as much as I would like to. My wife's a yoga teacher. Anytime I do it, I'm like, I love this so much. And then a month goes by and I haven't done it. I'm like, why do I not do that more? But you find the thing that works for you. But I think, if you have an expectation of yourself that it's just, you're gonna have to grind all day, every day, and you just accept that's enjoy it, kind of like, enjoy that journey. You're doing this thing. I think it just programs you. And maybe the way I was raised, I went through a lot of hard training, so I don't know if that helped. I imagine it might have. But I work with a lot of people that have never had that background at work, probably cannot work me. And they have their own renewal techniques, and most of them have physical fitness on some level. That is like, you go for a jog, you're having the worst day of your life, go for a jog, you're not gonna feel as bad afterwards, like 100%. I don't know if that fully answers your question. That's a hard question.
Yeah, I know there's another question over here too, I think. Yeah.
I'll pretend I need this to speak up. Have you found it challenging mending relationships that the prior CEO may have damaged with vendors and customers?
Oh, yeah.
And I get the impression that you were a market leader when you left and now it's so competitive. So how have you gone about mending those relationships?
Yeah. Great question, and absolutely was a challenge. They absolutely dragged the brand through the mud. They didn't pay people. It was a rough go. A lot of the market didn't understand that I was gone, even though I was gone. They just saw my name as, well, you're the one that built that company. That company didn't pay us. It's your fault, right? And it just took actions. You can talk all you want. It came into my business model early days. I paid everybody cash on delivery. I didn't owe $1 to anybody. The market has proven to be irresponsible, at least in this sector. They don't pay each other. And right when I took back over, I said, I'm paying everybody cash on delivery. You can hate us or love us, but you get a check when you show up. And after doing that for a certain period of time, I gained back the trust and respect. People want to give us terms. I don't want to. I appreciate that, but I like to not owe anybody money. And it was just, again, and then showing up. I used to lobby a lot in politics for change, not for my own personal company's agenda, but for betterment of the industry. I always looked at, let's make the whole industry better, and all of us that do a good job are gonna benefit from that. And so them seeing me push for legislation that is meaningful, not just for my company, because we're almost 5% of the total market in Oregon. A lot of companies at that size start wanting to just make their own agenda, have their own lobbyists for their own, finite reason. I just never looked at it that way. I think if we have a better environment to work within, the people that do a great job will rise to the top. And so that's just how we run the business.
Yeah, I gotta jump. One of the things you mentioned, and I think we talked about it the first time. I said, listen, I don't want to listen to alcoholics sell me alcohol, or stoners sell me pot, right? And I think that's been your perspective. I've heard it kind of through and through. Is the business side is the reason. There's extreme benefits and reasons that you're in it. How hard was that to curate inside of the company?
That actually wasn't hard.
Okay.
I hired a team. I didn't hire people because they were in cannabis. I hired people because they were great business leaders. And when you surround yourself, I don't care what you're selling, what your business is. If you have a great team, your team is what makes your business successful or not. And I was lucky enough to just, through my network, talking about having that great network, get the right people in the business. So, we always treated it just like if we were starting a .com, we're starting a construction firm, it didn't matter, it was cannabis.
Yeah.
We took, I think, extra strides to ensure that it wasn't the experience that was a lot of the market.
Yeah.
It would embarrass us. You go into some stores and you feel like it's a criminal activity or it's dirty or
Bob Marley posters in the back, you just have to be, right? You got to be in the black light.
I can't stand that. And so I felt like the more companies that set that bar like we're trying to, forces the market to get there or go away. Right. So you bring it into the light and you make it something that, because I was trying to change public opinion I took Tina Kotek through her first farm before she was governor. Like all these people that were not necessarily on board with the industry, and I wanted to show them how it was done right. I opened my doors to undercover DEA. I wanted to show them how I would, if knowing the industry, how I would, illegally transfer this out of a license, because I wanted them to be able to have rules so it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I wanted the tax dollars to stay in the state and support the program the way it was meant to be supported and the way they drew it up.
Right.
And so when we did that, a lot of other people started doing that, and it was the good actors that did that.
Right.
And again, the industry kind of coalesced into a group of real professionals, not just potheads or somebody that was growing cannabis in their basement became a business person.
Yeah. Has that parlayed into growth plans or opportunities in other states, or is it still really Oregon-centric? And
No, we're on an acquisition pathway right now. We were now in Washington. We're opening Nevada as we speak. We're building up facilities there in California. We're rolling up a lot of businesses in Oregon just because there's operator fatigue, a lot of bad actors that didn't know how to run a business, found themselves in debt, and you can go in with some creative financing and leverage deals and structure deals correctly. And I mean, we've doubled the footprint since I came back January 1 of 24. So.
yeah, it's amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Right at the top of your presentation, you talked about, hey, here's this great list of things that I wish I had, early on, and that was fantastic. I love the tie into physical fitness, and then you add, hobbies and the early mornings and the late nights and family and everything on top of that. You're putting a lot of tax on your most precious resource, which is, of course, your time. So I'm curious if there are things that you see a lot of other founders investing their time in, or maybe even things that you invested in early on that seemed like a good idea at the time that you had to kind of push aside to actually make way for those highest value activities.
Yeah. Social interaction, mostly like drinking and eating. I mean, it's a real thing. Just lots of founders and CEOs and presidents, they're out, schmoozing and drinking and eating. And it's kind of part of the territory on some level. At least it seems to be in a lot of the cultures, especially like when I was around investment bankers. Can't tell you, I mean, that's all they did, it seemed like Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. Venture capital's asking up. But, and absolutely, they're not 100% the next morning. You're eating late. You shouldn't eat 3 hours before bed, 4 hours before bed. They're eating late, they're drinking alcohol. And, I'm not judging, right? But to be at your A game, to show up your best self first thing in the morning, you can't do that. I mean, if you want to do that, do it once a week, Friday night, sleep in Saturday. But, I see it happen a lot. Like they'll go to lunch cocktails, they'll go to lunch, a heavy lunch. You're not going to function. Your body is, you eat heavy carbohydrates, and then they have a brain fog. So another thing, if you guys haven't, get your food sensitivity test done. This is something, it's miraculous. I didn't realize I was super allergic to potato. Like I didn't have any reaction, but it was actually slowing my metabolism and brain fog. And as soon as I cut out a grain of potato, it was like I was taking a NZT48 from that movie Limitless. Not really, but it was pretty impressive change. But just know your body, what you shouldn't be putting in it, causes inflammation. But to your point, I think that's one of the slipperiest slopes I see. And I get it's exciting. Maybe this is an investor of mine, and they want to have drinks and get to know each other, buddy down. But you can have hundreds of those, and at what point is that? Yeah, I think that's probably the one I noticed the most.
Yeah, it was up here.
I really haven't thought about your industry a lot in the last 10 years or so. And 10 years ago, wherever Green Rush was happening, when 91 happened here and Washington preceded it, and California, it seems to me that you kind of witnessed that moment in time. And we're in a moment in time where there's a lot of heavy investment. I worked there was a partner at a firm that got crazy calls with huge budgets to do brand and marketing stuff for weed companies. Yeah. Some of them never paid you. Some of them had crazy amounts of money. So as we're looking at this current landscape where there's a lot of heavy investment in small industries where there's not actually value capture, what are the things that, from your experience, and it's apples or oranges or new fruit that we don't really know about yet, that you would look for in a young company that's leveraging kind of new tech in terms of what would make this company a good bet for them, a good bet for an investor?
In my industry right now?
Well, no, in general, from your experience, it's apples and oranges because you're talking about creating a new market
Right.
in the entertainment space when it became unregulated for regular consumers, not medical. And the current market space where there's not necessarily product market fit and a lot of new technologies that are leveraging AI. What are the things you look for you would bring from your experience? Because those industries, there was a lot of investment, a lot of people lost their money early
Absolutely.
days.
Yep.
What are the things that you saw in your success early on that are just business fundamentals that you think are critical for a startup to think about?
Yeah. I'm an investor as well, so I do invest in a lot of different businesses myself, and I can just speak from the things that what I look for is definitely a fundamental understanding of their business. I want to know the processes, the why, the how, the what, the strategy, how they make decisions, their leadership styles, who the people are. I think, I think you invest in people more than the business, in my opinion. You can I've seen bad ideas become very successful because the people were awesome, and vice versa. So there's the whole, neat, great idea thing. I mean, those are fun. The sizzle. Do they really have a path to profitability? Why? I don't want to hear a theory. I want to see exactly why you have it. What's going to get you there? How do you know that? Is it a guess? Is it just theory, right? But again, it's the people, what their experiences were in life. Have they done it before? Doesn't mean they have to have done it before, but that does weigh big on my ratio. I like to see that they have enough operating capital to get to break even. Obviously, since there's the standard, we think we're going to get to here, and then they do another raise, and then they don't get there, and they do another raise, and they don't get there.
I think I'll put on my investor hat too. At one point, the number one mistake that I hear in early ecosystems, and every ecosystem I've ever been in, is this idea-itis. We talk about it all the time. Somebody's got an idea, and they keep trying to, when I'm talking to them or they're talking to other investors, they keep selling. They keep telling me why that idea is so great, instead of making the shift and starting to talk to me about the market need, right? Instead of starting to look at what validation. The market should be pulling you in. That's your goal, not convincing us how great your product is. If your product is that great, you should be able to have proof positive or some evidence that you're chasing down in the market that is pulling you into it. And so I think that's a huge shift.
Another thing on that I think I like to see the founders or even the whole C-suite of that business all personally invested in a large amount. I want to see them on the line with their own money, their own skin. People take it a lot more seriously, the whole other people money opportunity. If they wrote a check to the point where they don't have savings anymore and this has to win for them to pay their mortgage, buy groceries, there's a higher chance. They're invested in your success as well as theirs, right? Yeah. In fact, all my C-suite that I had come do this with me again, I made all of them invest a large chunk, or I was like, then I can find something else. I want you that invested in our success.
All right.
Hi. Quick question, maybe a tricky question, but obviously this movement is here to stay, right? And so I remember seeing the article in Columbia newspaper where they were showing the picture of students, not Columbia, well, maybe it was a Columbian, but anyway, Clark College students taking a break after their classes and a bunch of puff of smoke around them. And so essentially the article was describing how students are taking a break and they're smoking weed, essentially. So obviously this is forming a culture, right, of consumption of this product. And so my question is, how do you balance your passion, the success of the company, the need for it to be successful, and social responsibility, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I believe it's very much like alcohol, right? You shouldn't take a break after or midday class at college and go take shots at the bar either, right? I mean, it's just being, you know, responsible. We push for a lot of those laws. I want to have designated consumption areas. You know, I talk to kids a lot about you shouldn't use it at all until your developmental brain is there. It's you know, it's detrimental. You can overdo or overuse any substance almost, right? It's like all within reason and being responsible. There's a time and a place for it. I very much dislike when I see that myself. Like, you know, it's not the right time or place or manner. We actually, on that note, pushed for a lot of time, place, and manner rules that would not allow for that to happen. Now, people are going to choose to break rules. You know, that's just human nature on some level. But I think as we keep pushing to make sure those rules are held in place, it's setting the example of how to do it right. Nobody's out there drinking bottles of liquor on their breaks. At least I don't see it. And maybe at one point that was a problem. I don't know. That was probably before my time.
Well, it's kind of become a state level decision too, right? You know, you've got put something in a paper bag and you can walk around with it and that's fine, but most places say you're not out in public doing it.
Yeah.
So I think we'll all come to a stasis about it.
Yeah, there are laws. You're not allowed to, I mean, it's even like in Oregon, you're not allowed to pull over on the side of the road and smoke in your car, even if you're going to stay there the whole night. It's not about the intoxication. That's just not allowed to smoke out in public. So there's like designated places you are legally allowed to use cannabis, and some people just break the rule.
We got one more question.
You talked about getting your C-suite buy-in financially. How do you separate the need to push at your level and those guys with the guys right below you who aren't getting that same outcome at the end of this, right? Where they're not going to get the big payout, they're going to get something. How do you set the expectation for how much effort and energy they're putting in versus how much effort and energy you're putting in?
It depends on how invested they are. So, yes, some of them are at the level I'm at, where their payout will be just as good, you know, or close to it, right? Also, at least in the structure we are this time, being 100% employee-owned ESOP, all C-suite and director level, there's a certain percentage of pool that the trustee allows, and it's significant. So it allows me to have an expectation that, hey, you're going to be getting this large piece of equity. I expect a certain level of equity. And if not, that's a different conversation. You know, but that again goes back to the right people. You know, if you have the right people, maybe they're not going to work to your level. And I'm not saying it's impossible. There are other people that will come to call and work to your level. It's just rare. I would never want to say you should expect it. But you know, when you get the right people involved, that's all the difference in the world. But we do spend a lot of time on expectations, priorities, job criteria, all those things. Here is everything. And again, to hold each other accountable, we run our business on OKRs, so objective and key result meetings. There's no silos. Everybody knows what the objectives are, what you're working on, the Gantt chart, what timeline it's going to be done in, and we talk about it as an entire group of directors, so everybody sees if you're falling short or you're overachieving, or maybe the goal was a bad goal to begin with, but it's very open, right? So you can't hide within that system at all. It's very apparent. Like, we actually had an employee asked to be demoted. They didn't want to leave the business, but they realized they weren't coming to call on this position that they're in, and it was very apparent. So they said, hey, instead of like me, you know, not doing the job I obviously should be doing, I'd rather take a demotion. So that was one of the first, you know, things that happened that was really eye-opening, that showed the success of that system.
Oh, that's awesome. William, this was absolutely amazing. Really, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the kind of, you know, the candor about it too. I hope we have scared away some entrepreneurs. Maybe. No, but it is. I think there's some really honest truths that I think you said, And I think a lot of times we stab at it from the outside, and we have ideas that we want to curate and cultivate, and those are ideas. That's great, but when you're ready to hit the gas, it's a huge commitment, and you really got to understand that going in. So, and I think, look for some benchmarks that are things that are, milestones that you can set. That I always like the idea of forced accountability, right? Is set something that you have to live up to, right? And so sometimes you put that benchmark out there, and guess what? You got to get there, otherwise, stuff's going to break. You can kind of force yourself into success a little bit. So